let's talk about how you create requirements. A quick search online identifies a number of different ways that all involve asking very specific questions. As such, if you were to only follow those specific questions, there's a risk in not identifying all of your product requirements. I mean, if you're reading questions that are designed for an electromechanical system, but you have if you have an IVD diagnostic, as we talked about, molecular biology plays a role in the performance, you may be missing out on some key features. It could be critically problematic, especially in the IVD industry. You want to ensure that what is being made is the right thing. So we're going to be going through a 3-step process today. Who wants the product? You know, it starts with the fundamental question, who wants this product? Why is this product important? This is your objective. This is your vision. These questions then drive to determine who will be your end user and what they want as part of, and that will become your product requirements. And once you understand your end user and your product, you can understand how your product needs to function to achieve their goals, and that you can build the right product. By going through a function analysis, or FAST, you could put down on paper exactly how the product will be used and acted upon. Once you have that product use flow, each function are your key subsystems. After identifying your critical features, whether they are harmful, performance-related, unique, and difficult, they are then applied to the parameter diagram, or P diagram, to elucidate the inputs, outputs, noise, and controllable and uncontrollable parameters, which become your design requirements, specifications, and risks. By writing out the requirements and specifications, we'll probably see some of them interfere or flat out contradict one another. Combined with the risks, it'll be necessary to perform a trade-off mitigation innovation evaluation where user interview inputs, function criticality, and the senior development team's insight determine what is more valuable and what can be reduced or eliminated. So let's get started. Creating product requirements. The highest tier of requirements to which validation activities and clinical trials are used to confirm that the right product was designed, depending on what are the critical needs of your customers and users. As we talked about, doing research and interviews, you can create product requirements that represent the totality of the product development needs. Planning is important and paramount to a good project. The first thing we need to determine is who our users are. So as I noted before, things to think about. And why are they going to be interested? If we misjudge who these users are or do something that creates a wall between us and them, we risk failing to deliver the right product rather than just a good product. There'll be a lot of background research that goes into identifying who will use the product, from evaluating product use conditions, competitive products, market trends, vendors, suppliers, surveys and interviews with users, new technology, patent evaluations, and so on. These fundamental analyses summarize the expectations of product performance, costs, life cycle, user needs that will help define your requirements and your product requirements. This also includes understanding your business and commercial objectives, since a problem without a profitable outcome is not a viable business model. How do you pay back costs? How do you increase market share or extend product life or enhance your product range? These critical questions use the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. Some of those questions that should be asked at each of the use phase include: why is this product important? Who will use this product? Who will be affected by this product? It's very different. They don't necessarily are the same people. Who are your competitors, and how will they likely react to this new product? What must the product do? What needs must it serve? Where will the product be used? When will it be used? When should the product be launched? How long will it remain competitive? Make sure to review what you've answered with key stakeholders or representatives to identify and highlight those answers that bring value and utility. And while we're conducting the research of potential users, it's imperative to keep in mind those user needs. And this is not easy. I mean, it requires specific research and analysis of the interviews and data collected to explore and identify all of the potential users. There is, unfortunately, a strong potential to bring bias into the process. Because of the potential for bias, It requires careful consideration of external factors that might affect our end user's ability to connect with the interviewer and ultimately with the product. Self-reflection to ensure that we are capable of recognizing how some product features might create barriers instead of building bridges. Now, as seen with COVID-19, demographics, population density, multifamily dwellings are three large drivers of the patient population. Another example, diabetes patients tend to have multiple chronic diseases, most associated with joint inflammation, arthritis, brain fog, and others that influence their ability to self-test. Finally, our analysis of potential users requires us to be open to new ways of approaching the identification and capture of potential users and product needs. For instance, Facebook and LinkedIn are small, non-representative sample groups, whereas CRO facilities have large connections to clinics around the country, which amounts to community outreach and a significant testing population. Classifying your users ensures that you understand the influence on the product design, support, and business operations. And there's two groups here. The first one is this set, which talks about the knowledge group, the empower group, and the action group. Knowledge groups are people or groups of people who need to know about the product that you have, but aren't necessarily going to do anything about it. A good example would be granting agencies. They are the least engaged, but they still have important input in terms of the product performance. Empowered, these are the people who need to know about your product and will help others achieve their goals. So this would include maybe investors who will decide whether or not they want to invest in your product and providing the resources to build the product. The action group, this is your priority group. These are the people who need to act and are the people who want to use your product. They'll probably even include potential beta sites. Understanding this group's needs are critical to ensuring success. After the research, interviewing, and identification, you need to evaluate the must-haves, the should-haves, the could-haves, and likes, and the will-not-haves. This is the MustScout method. The MustScout is an effective prioritization method that captures the broader perspective from the research performed, as well as the interviews with experts and users. The musts are your critical features. Anything in the must-have category is considered mandatory for the team to complete. If you're unsure about whether something belongs in this category, ask yourself what happens to the product if we release it without that feature. If the product won't work or becomes useless, the initiative is most likely a must-have. Should-haves are just a step below must-haves. They're features important to the product. They're not vital. If they're left out, the product will still function, but if they're included, they add significant value. These features could also be slated for a future release without impacting the current one. Think of the difference between the musts and the shoulds could be like your minimum viable product. The coulds are the features that are nice to have. Small impact on the product, usually first to be deprioritized if the product is in the should-haves and must-haves end up being larger, more expensive, taking more time. And the will-not-haves are nice. They effectively say that they're not necessary. They help manage expectations about what will not be included, and they can actually help prevent scope creep.